Hello there, I'm Peter Cook. I'm here to talk to you about rebooting Britain. In other words, to reverse Brexit by any means. But before we do that, a brief history lesson. Let's look backwards first. We've had 4 years of trying to have Brexit, and frankly, it ain't pretty. We've had 3 elections, 3 prime ministers, and 3 failed attempts to Brexit. I'm not even sure, it might be 4, I can't even remember now, but we've had a lot of attempts. And that should tell us something about the viability of Brexit as a complex, wicked problem that has eluded all possible attempts to massage it through. In recent times, we've of course added Corona to Brexit. And whatever you focus on in life gets you the results you get. And in our case, it's been a case of too little too late. In January, instead of actually taking scientific advice, we were trying to mint 50p Brexit coins to bong Big Ben and get Brexit done, as Boris likes to say. Put it in the microwave, gas mark 4. In February, we were talking about washing our hands, don't panic, and hiding in fridges and various other things. In March, Boris disappeared, never to be seen again for some time, retired to Chequers, his second home. Phoned Trump and asked for help, phoned the Queen, stay at home. It's a very sad fact to have to say this, but our Corona death toll is a direct product of the time we've wasted and focused on other things. In other words, in life, your priorities determine your outcomes. We got Brexit done on the 31st of January, allegedly, but we caught Corona in the process. Before I go on further, people tell me, surely we can't reverse Brexit or renew it or revoke it or whatever word with an R, it begins with an R. Of course, we did leave on the 31st of January, but Brexit is a political process, not just a legal one. The law often follows the politics. Why do I say that, you might be asking? Well, you think and come back to me when you've thought of a time when this government obeyed the law in the last 4 years. I'll give you a few examples where it hasn't done. There was the prorogation of Parliament. There was the Cooper Amendment, which ruled no deal out, and here we are headlong running into no deal. There was Gina Miller's Supreme Court action. Although not legal, we had 6 million signatures, several marches that showed strength of feeling, when in fact the Brexiteers have managed about 10 or 20 people at Parliament in the last few years. All of that has been ignored, all of that quasi-legal and legal process. So it's absolutely the case that if Boris wanted to stop this now, he could just make a phone call to Barnier or send an email, say, "Oh, I'm sorry, had a cigar and thought about it, and perhaps we should think again." And then a suitable set of legal instruments would be invoked, and that would take ages, I admit. But the political will is what's been lacking with Brexit, more than the actual legalities of it. Legalities would have, of course, to follow that political will. But what we are here about on the Rage Against Brexit project is to change that political will. So we're here to reboot Britain. Let's look at the near future. So come July, August, I've put a slide up here, the Psycho-Socio-Economic Climate in UK PLC. I predict, and it's been reported on Radio 4 since I made this prediction, that the UK will be in a state of collective PTSD in July or August, akin to something like after a major war. We've been lied to consistently about tests, vaccines and deaths in an unprecedented way, to use their phraseology. We will have, depend on whose estimates you believe, between 70,000 perhaps, maybe even more, and maybe more than 150,000 deaths from COVID, sadly, at that time. Alongside that, the economic disaster will be well in progress. The fields will be rotting, the food in the fields will be rotting, and that economic disaster will be biting hard as an L-shaped recession, not a V or a U-shaped one, but I think the prediction is an L-shaped recession. L doesn't stand for long, but it ought to. We'll have what I call social dystopia. In other words, the fruit and veg shortages will be making people think hard about whether Corona plus Brexit is a really good idea. We'll have a state of depression in the country in certain parts of it, and people will actually fear socialisation, getting close to one another, or as Sting liked to say, don't stand so close to me. We did have some political stasis, and that's perhaps why the will of the people and the will of Parliament has prevailed. But in recent times, an opposition has started to grow. So we will have the advantage of some kind of opposition, and we want to add to that opposition and reinforce it along with the main movements. So we're not competitive with the main Remain movements, but we want to add an edge to it at a grassroots level. Given all that analysis, and then Boris comes along and says, well, we got COVID done, now how to do Brexit. I don't know that that's going to go down so well with people, to be brutally honest. I don't know whether that equation of Corona plus Brexit is going to play so well, because particularly we've already now had an experience of what Brexit might look like. So I think actually Corona changes everything. So the question is, why would you want to join our movement to reboot Britain, Rage Against Brexit? We have a number of aims, and they're written down on this slide. We need a professional approach, a grassroots approach to this. What I mean by professional is full-time. Volunteers are great. We've all volunteered, done 4 years of this myself. But voluntary effort is, obviously, we have an hour or two to give to this. We need full-time effort on this because the ground moves so quickly. We need to be agile and adaptive, flexible and creative, and responsive to what happens. So we need to be strategic, but we also need to be reactive to the changing moods of our government to respond at the time. We need to be popular, but not populist. What's the difference, you may well ask? Well, I think that some of the Remain movements have been of an insufficient size to reach through to popular culture. So size matters in this debate. So we aim to build a big movement that can make an impact on the media and in other places, in Parliament and what have you. So we do need to be popular, but we don't have to go to the lowest common denominator, but we do have to out-Farage by learning from Vote Leave and improving it, not copying it. There's a huge and important difference. Just imagine what it would be like if you felt that you could trust your politicians. Just imagine, that must be Boris on the phone right now, but I haven't got time to answer him. Moving on, we are not political. We're going to leave our politics at the doorstep. We don't care what colour of party you support, but we are going to deal with politics in particular ways. We need to leaven this two-party system. That means dividing and conquering the Tory party, which has the majority, and supporting and uplifting the opposition parties of all colours and persuasions. And we do three things. We need to unblock parliamentary paralysis, take back control of populist media, so get into the outside the bubble, rather than just getting ourselves in the Guardian, New European. That's all fine, but the other people are not reading those things. And we need to have better reach and penetration of social media. These are the things we can do under lockdown. Obviously, we do other things once lockdown is lifted, but they're the three things we're concentrating on at the moment. As I've said, we're not competitive with the remaining national movements, but we would seek to be slightly more edgy. So we call it Rage Against Brexit Machine, not tut-tut against Brexit Machine. Rage doesn't have to mean rioting. It's not rioting against the Brexit Machine. It's rage, which means purposeful anger. And a lot of people are very angry, but a lot of people also feel that there's nothing they can do now to stop Brexit. That's simply not true for the reasons I've described. It's okay to be angry, particularly if you do it in ways that are purposeful and legal, and leverage that anger by writing to MPs and doing things that actually change minds. So rage is an interesting word, but we aren't tut-tut against Brexit. We have a single party aim. We're not a political party. We have a single aim. Our work will be complete when Brexit is put in a shallow grave. So how do we do it then? What are our messages that we convey? Well, I said Corona changes everything. And one message is this is absolutely the worst time in history to Brexit. Corona gives us a realistic preview of Brexit as well. The one thing that Brexit could never do was explain what Project Fear would look like. But we have had now Project Reality with Corona, and if we typify that in a slightly gruesome way, where toilet roll is currency, where chicken drumsticks are being traded in dark alleyways, and there's a sort of underground economy worked up to cope with the sort of queuing and other things. And heaven forbid that Pampers are on their third use, but you know what I mean. So Corona has given us this insight, this sneak preview of what Brexit will be like. And we already know that we've sent the immigrants away and we can't even pick fruit in the fields this summer. So this is what Brexit will be like. So if you fancy queuing for the rest of your life, then we need to get on and get Brexit done. Another argument is that to say, well, we lost, let's have no deal Brexit and let's let 3 months of chaos ensue, and then we crawl back on our knees screaming for mercy, which probably means the EU would perhaps let us back under some article or what have you, but it would be with terms and conditions, and there'd probably be Schengen, the Euro, all sorts of all things we don't want, it seems, in Britain. So paradoxically, the Brexiteers may end up getting us a far worse alignment with the EU if we have no deal, because believe you me, Project Fear was right, and we will. We already know there'll be a border in the Irish with Ireland. We already know that the tariffs are going to go on the goods. We already know that the customs checks will be there. So your life is going to be made miserable from travel. Your cars, your food are all going to be more expensive, added to which the pound will probably drop by another 10 to 15%. So Britain PLC is going to be poorer. I know some people said it's what they voted for. I don't believe they meant that. And it's all very well to say that as a sort of fantasy, but the reality is going to be very, very different. So Corona crisis plus Brexit disaster equals what I call a Britastrophe. It almost sounds like Boris could have said that. Britastrophe! With some sort of flourish on the end. And finally, what would life be like if politicians and politics were honest? I mean, we wouldn't have to constantly look behind our backs and keep thinking, is that real? It would be nice if we could have honest politics for a change. How do we do this then? So we have 4 communication strategies under sort of lockdown, and they apply equally to sort of normal life, and they target what I call dead cat politics in Brexit. So we need to act upon Parliament to break open this parliamentary paralysis. This is via lobbying MPs, using a variety of means, from letter writing to phone calls to everything else we can do whilst Corona is on. But of course it also means physical things on the street if that lockdown gets lifted at some stage under safe conditions. Secondly, I've used Boris's phrase to take back control of populist media. What do I mean by that? We spent too much time putting stuff in media that the other side don't read. I know we like doing that and it sounds good, but if we can't get a Sun headline to people, nobody reads long stuff in an age where society suffers collectively from ADHD. They want to just read the headline and assume they've read the article. I don't mean they literally suffer from ADHD, but we do have an attention deficit disorder in terms of consuming media now. If it ain't got a good headline, we're not interested. So we have to think sharp, we have to think short sometimes. I know this is now a long video, but nonetheless, I need to get through this. I need to get the video done. So we need to penetrate deeply into people's minds in the media, and we also need to do the same thing on social media. And we also need to change people's mind one by one by one. It's not efficient, but it's one of the most effective ways of changing the will of the people, is to change people's minds on Brexit one by one. People say to me, but you can't. They just say, get over it, shut up. I submit to those people that when we're on the street, we have 10 seconds to talk to people, we shout at them, sometimes they shout at us. That is not a change management strategy. I agree with that proselytization and shouting and proclaiming that we're right and they're wrong isn't always a good way, but the one-to-one, quiet and effective way is a way to change minds. And a Brexicism, as I call it, requires skill, patience and time, all things which Remainers don't always have, because we don't have the amount of time we've got, or we get fed up when they say, get over it. And we get fed up with it. I get fed up with it. But, if we're going to change minds, we need to work on that. Incidentally, I wrote a book called Let's Talk About Brex that gives you the strategies and skills to hold those difficult conversations, but that's not why I'm here today. But there are ways to change minds on Brexit. We have one short-term, time-limited project which I'm asking you to all back, and it's only going to cost you the price of a Mars bar or a cup of coffee. We're going to try and get a song into the chart on June the 14th, from June the 14th to June the 21st, which is called Hello Vera, Brexit's Coming Home. It's written as a sort of football song, written from the point of view of a Brexiteer who's going, I still want it, I don't know what it is, but Brexit's coming home. It's slightly, I was told it had pathos, which I had to look up in the group, but it's a sense of pity about the Brexit condition. But a positive one. It's a really trashy football song that I wrote, although it's very good. But I wrote this football song. I've never written a football song in my life, and we need people to download it, to share it multiple times. To get in the UK charts, you need something like 80,000 downloads. I'll be doing a separate video on this to explain exactly how we do that. We reach into the minds and the hearts of the Brexiteers to get them to ask this question: Corona plus Brexit, do we really want it? Because I think the mood has changed, absolutely. Corona has changed everything. So we're going to do that in a month's time. We need lots and lots of downloads. Last time we did this, we beat Kylie Minogue to Amazon, to number one on Amazon, but we didn't get enough downloads to get it into the national official charts. The Sun, the Mail and all those people had promised us that if it was a real story, in other words, it was in the charts, that they would cover it, not to cover the song, but to cover the question of Corona plus Brexit, and to cover what we want to talk about as people that believe that Remain is probably the best way to rebuild Britain in the future, and to build a society that actually can face a turbulent world. So we don't want to talk to the Mail about writing a song, that's sort of irrelevant. We do want to talk to them about the pertinent issues of the day. So we have this time limited project. I'll speak more about it on a separate video. How, therefore, are Rage Against Brexit organised to reboot Britain? Well, we have a structure. We have a cell-based organisation so that we can be nimble, agile and speedy, so that we can capture this zeitgeist of what's going on today. Nearly every day there's a new lie. We have to be ready to get on it, which is why we need a full-time movement, which is why I want you to actually give us some money to help build this organisation. I'll say more about that in a moment. It's funded, therefore, by monthly donations, whether it's £10 per month, 25, whatever you can afford, bronze, silver or gold or whatever you want to describe it. Either a single donation or preferably a continuing one, so we can hire people like PAs and other people to we can put them on a wage so that we can demand that they do things rather than wait for volunteers who have limited amount of time. Set up like the Brexit Party as a limited company for maximum flexibility, but with full transparency, so not like the Brexit Party, on accounting, with quarterly reports to members. As I said, the organisation will fold when Brexit is put into a shallow grave. We have already about 100 people, highly skilled people, across Europe in fact, working on the project. They cover people from all walks of industry. They don't so much cover politicians. We may be political, but we're not politicians, so we're more like en marche rather than the Labour or Conservative Party. We're not career politicians, nor do we want to have careers as politicians. We do ask that people leave their party politics. Stopping Brexit is hard enough without adding another variant to it, like Stop Brexit plus, climate change plus Jeremy Corbyn plus Jeremy Hunt or whatever permutation of Remain people want to do. We just want to just focus on the one goal. In my real life as a management consultant, we call Brexit and things like, we call them wicked problems. They're complex, joined up problems, and they're really difficult to solve. If you then add to it, stop Brexit on my own needs, and I want to, add to it, an appreciation of guitars, for example, then it's too difficult on its own. It's really difficult on its own. So it's too difficult when you've added your own personal whim into it. So you really need to be razor sharp focused on this and not entertain party politics. You may well ask, what's going to happen? What are the outcomes we expect from this project, and why therefore would you want to put some money into it? Well, at the end of 2020 we could end up with no deal plus Corona. I suppose we could end up with it in June even, if the EU just say, look, we've had enough of you. So we could end up with no deal plus Corona, which in my view, I'm probably alone in this, would be the quickest way to end Brexit. 3 months of starvation should be enough. But I know that most people don't want that outcome. So of course we will be trying to head off no deal once again, even though it was made illegal. Remember what I said, that this is a political process. It ignores the law. Or we could end up with no Brexit, which is absolutely my preferred option. As I said, it's a political process, not a legal one. We could send an email. There would be 6 months of gnashing of teeth. Men and women with wigs would come in to write documents. Article 347/A, paragraph 43. It would have to be some linguistics applied to avoid using the word remain or revoke. Oh, the phone's ringing again. It must be Dominic Raab. What does he want? Who cares? So we could revoke, but probably we wouldn't use the word revoke. And we could therefore remain. But we probably wouldn't use that word. It'll have to be a word that's suitable. And that's the realm of people with wigs that do write these documents to sort of rubber stamp and christen decisions made by politicians. Or we could delay. Possibly the most pragmatic option, lots of effort going into that already by the group. But remember, it has to be not a 3-month delay for COVID. It's got to be a delay that's long enough. I'm not in favour of just delaying it by the amount of time we've lost, because it just delays the anticlimax. So we want a proper delay. And remember also that Leavers, Vote Leave, have been much more skillful at us than we have in getting past all the roadblocks we've put in the way to remaining. So I don't know whether it delays the awful moment. And eventually, if we delay consistently, there'll be nothing left of the UK PLC, and rejoining might become really difficult because we may have the gross domestic product of Tonga by that time. So I see why people do that, and we're absolutely behind it, but we must also be focused on actually stopping Brexit. There's some frequently asked questions on the presentation. I'm going to let you read them in some detail. I've answered question 1, isn't it already done? We've got a piece of paper. Well, we have had our Chamberlain moment. A piece of paper was waved. I've done a deal with Mr. Hitler. It's all going to be okay. I see. In case you've forgotten your history, it wasn't. And nor is this anything more than a piece of paper. Yes, we might have to reframe the word revoke or institute another article or whatever it is, but it's a political decision as much as it is a legal rubber stamping exercise. And there are the examples I've given earlier are up there for you to see, of all the things that the government has basically ignored that are either legal or quasi-legal. If the political will changed, Brexit would change. We have not successfully managed to change political will, although we were very close to doing so until we had the general election last year. We had nearly got this in the bag, but anyway, we had the election. The past is prologue. Other people say, isn't it too late? We're about to sort of to do this, 6 months notice and all the rest of it. This could just be yet another hiatus, another false ending of Brexit. Do you remember the last false ending of Brexit? In Halloween, we're going to get it done, otherwise I'm dying in a ditch. He's not in a ditch. He's in a fridge, actually, but we're splitting hairs there about fridges and ditches. But he lied about Halloween. It was going to be done, I can't remember, was it December? Yes. Even remembering Brexit history is like a new A-level, I think. So just know this could be another anticlimax, June. So we are in this, at least for 7 months and probably a little longer. What will we do with the money? Well, I'm going to hire a PA. I need to get a much better web platform, which we'll need to pay for, and someone to organise it. We'll need probably a proper fundraiser and all the things one would normally have in a professional organisation. As I said, volunteers are great. I've done this for 4 years voluntarily, nearly all my full time on it, but I can no longer afford to do it voluntarily. And voluntary effort is great, but you get it when they can give it. We need a small core of people to be able to respond and get things done as we need. And for that, I believe we should pay them professional rates for professional work. You may be asking, oh my God, not another anti-Brexit movement. Please God, why? I humbly suggest that we will actually be far more direct and professional about this than professional politicians. Some of our politicians have fence-sat for some time. Parliamentary paralysis is what I call that. Also, we'll be able to target directly, and we'll be able to therefore give this will give us an edge. We will also collaborate with the other EU groups, particularly the ones in the centre, and of course be a unifying force for other grassroots groups. We've already got many of the people in Kent and other parts of the world, like Yorkshire, working with us, and some other parts of Britain. Of course, we've got people from Europe who are contributing to us. So we've already got quite a good network. And we're also inviting people to explore this on Zoom calls, which I shall set up and every day if need be in the next few weeks. So if you want to jump on and ask me questions about these questions, then I will set up a Zoom call for you to do that. So how would you find us? You can actually email me at peter@humdine.co.uk. That's short for Human Dynamics, and it spells Peter at HUM for mother, DYN for November.co.uk. You can also call me. The numbers are going to be on the screen. Please look at the crowdfunder. The link to that will be on the video. And let's reboot Britain. So in summary, Brexit can be stopped if we want it to. It's the political will that's missing. If you're thinking, I'm weary, I'm tired, I completely understand that. I've done 4 years of this. It's what we call in the trade learned helplessness. You don't think there's anything you can do, or perhaps that you should do because the will of the people have spoken. This is horseshit, frankly. We can and we must do this for our children. So let's rage against Brexit. Rage. Tut tut. Whatever you think. But let's rage against Brexit and let's reboot Britain. Please go onto the crowdfunder and give us what you can to support our efforts. Thank you.